Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Shannon de Rehove. It's a pleasure to have you with us today for the second session in our two-part series based on the report Opportunities for Digitalization in the South African Energy Sector, commissioned by the South African-German Energy Partnership. Today's webinar is titled From Data to Decisions, Harnessing Digital Tools for Smarter Asset Management. The report explores how digitalization is reshaping energy systems and highlights the opportunities that come with the sector's shift towards decentralization, digitalization, and decarbonization. Today, we'll focus specifically on how digitalization and artificial intelligence, or AI, are reshaping how energy assets are managed. Building on insights from the report, which highlights opportunities for the sector, this webinar will explore how digital tools and AI can transform asset management in South Africa. The session will show how smarter use of data can optimize assets, enhance decision-making, and strengthen energy security. We're looking forward to a dynamic discussion, so thank you for joining us. Before we dive in, just a couple of quick housekeeping notes. You'll see the Q&A section on your screen. Please post your questions in there at any time during the session, and we'll do our best to address them during the discussion. If you'd like to share thoughts, comments, or connect with other attendees, please use the chat function. This session is being recorded and live streamed to YouTube, so if you'd like to revisit today's discussion or share it with colleagues, you'll be able to do so afterwards. And just a quick note about the presentations. Should you request it, you'll receive the slide deck after the session ends, so you can sit back and enjoy the discussion. And in case you missed it, a link to the recording of the first session has been shared in the chat. I'll hand over now to Yusuf Dala, Manager at EY in the transformation space with a focus on power and utilities. He also assisted in commissioning of the report. So over to you, Yusuf.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for being here. So I'll just go through the quick agenda for today's session. Sorry, Shannon, is the slides up? Yeah, thanks. So I'll just be going through the agenda for today's session. We'll be looking at sort of an opening and scene setting as to why the report was commissioned. And then we look at the various specific topics that we sort of going to deep dive in for today, which will be around asset management throughout the value chain and how we can optimize them using various digital tools. We're going to look at data connectivity and infrastructure that helps ensure a bi-directional communication, and as well as artificial intelligence in the AI, artificial intelligence in the energy space. We do also have today some industry experts who will share with us some case studies. We have a specific slot for question and answers, but we do have within each of the topics, a few minutes for the presenters to answer any specific questions that you might put in the question answer chat, and then we have a wrap up at the end. So that would be our agenda for today's session. But I'll kick off by handing over to Henrik, who is the head of the secretariat of the South African German Energy Partnership, who will be doing the opening and scene setting for us. Over to you, Henrik.
Thank you very much, Yusuf. Good morning to everyone who decided to join this webinar today on what's here in Joburg, at least a fairly rainy morning. So a good day to join a webinar. On the next slide, you'll see a QR code to the report that we're discussing today. And you see here, it says, in the race for a sustainable future, digitalization is our greatest ally. And what this means for us really is digitalization enables the energy transition. It's how we turn intermittent resources into reliable supply. It allows us to dispatch variable renewables, balance supply and demand instantly, keeping grids stable, etc. So I think, in short, without digitalization, the large-scale integration of renewables, batteries, and EVs that we need for the energy transition simply wouldn't be feasible. And so we have worked over the past year with our partners from EY and with a range of South African industry experts to explore very concrete digitalization opportunities for the South African energy sector. So before we start, I'd just like to say a big thank you to the members of our reference group who've been working with us on developing this piece of research. And yeah, who did a lot to guide this work and gave a lot of their time, thoughts, and inputs. They include representatives from the Department of Electricity and Energy, the South African Local Government Association, SALGA, Eskom, SANEDI, the CSIR, BUSA, SAPVIA, and GIZ. You'll see the full names of everybody who contributed, the reference group members in the report itself. But I just wanted to, yeah, first of all, say a big thank you to all of you. On the next slide, you'll see that with this research piece, we've tried to pursue a number of objectives. We want to assess the potential of digital technologies to enhance energy security. We want to look at how to support, like I mentioned, the transition to a decarbonized energy system. We want to look at the entire value chain, obviously, from generation to end use. And we want to also look at socioeconomic benefits, new business opportunities, and job creation. Maybe I should also add a brief word about the South African-German Energy Partnership, as we commissioned this report. And which my colleague Sophie and I, who are here today, we support this partnership in a secretariat function. This is a partnership that was formed over 10 years ago between the South African and German departments responsible for energy. Really the objective of this partnership is to deepen the dialogue between the two countries, between the two governments on relevant energy policy issues. It also provides a platform for joint initiatives of government and industry representatives in both countries, with a view to enhancing energy security, decarbonization, and also trade-related aspects of energy. So for us in the Secretariat, this research piece also represents something of a departure point from which we plan to develop concrete initiatives and collaborations between South Africa and Germany. But of course, it's not limited to that. We hope that anyone who is interested in the energy industry in South Africa can derive value from the report. Maybe a last word from me before I hand back to you, Yusuf. On the next slide, you'll see 6 specific opportunities that we identified in our report. We started with a really broad scoping of the opportunities that exist in terms of digitalization for the energy sector, and we landed on 6 topics that we wanted to focus on more, and that we then did very specific research on. When you look at the report, you'll see that each of these topics has its own chapter in the report, and each topic is sort of a self-contained chapter. That means if you're interested in one specific topic, you can read that one chapter sort of standing by itself, and we hope that makes it quite user-friendly, and we hope that a lot of people will get value from it. We had a previous webinar 2 weeks ago where we looked at the topics on the left, so AMI solutions, cybersecurity, and market-driven flexibility. And yeah, today we're looking at asset management, digital infrastructure, like Yusuf mentioned, and AI. And yeah, I look forward to the conversation. I also want to say a big thanks not just to the EY team that did really a lot of the legwork for this report, but also the colleagues from SAP and Siemens who are here today and will share some practical insights into how they turned these opportunities into actual solutions that are out there. So thank you very much. And with this, I'll hand it back to you, Yusuf. Thank you.
Thanks, Henrik. I think we'll start off with a short poll just to understand sort of your expectation of today's session. So you'll see it will pop up the poll on your screen. Happy for you to select all that applies to you for today's session, and we'll use this to sort of drive some of the conversation. If we haven't specifically focused on this, we'll look at how we, in future start focusing on some of the key things that you'd like to be interested in as well. So yeah, just wait for you guys a few minutes for you to answer this, and then we'll just look at the results. Yeah, so Renat, when you have a lot of the answers, I'm sure you can just then share the results with us, and then we can look at it. Okay, fantastic. I see that a lot of people want to understand the role of AI in asset management, and we do have someone covering this topic. And I think a lot of the information, of digitization also speak around AI integration, and our industry case studies also will allude to that. The other key sort of distributed across is learning around asset performance and AI existing frameworks. So yeah, I mean, a lot of these things will definitely be covered. So thanks all for answering this and giving us a bit more direction in what you're looking for. If we move on, just some of the objectives for our session today. Is that we'll be exploring the impact of digitalization and AI on asset management, and how also we can optimize asset performance using various digital tools as well as AI technologies. We're also looking at integrating AI into existing asset management frameworks, and how we can build strength and resilience in the energy sector, and as well as around the connectivity piece and bidirectional communication, which is a key component of having, all of this data, in one specific space, so that, we can make various decisions. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Siham, who's a partner at HKA Global, leading the South African advisory practice and driving strategic direction. Siham has over 25 years experience in the public sector, and her expertise includes strategic planning, risk management, and development of large-scale infrastructure and government initiatives. Siham has also influenced many sectors in South Africa, including the transport and utility space. And another thing around Siham, she's a member of the Institute of Asset Management, where she contributes to guidance for other asset management practitioners. Without further ado, I'll hand over to Siham, who will start off her first topic around asset management. Thanks, Siham.
Thanks, Yusuf. Good morning, everyone. Firstly, I would like to say congratulations to Henrik and the team at Energy Partnership and EY, as well as the advisory board for getting the report over the line. It's been a great privilege of mine to have contributed to the report and to discuss some of its findings with the audience today. So in this session, I will be talking about asset management, or more specifically, digital asset management. But before we do that, let's just get a knowledge check, get an understanding of how familiar you are with the concept or the discipline of this digital asset management itself. There's some 4 questions. It's very quick, take you a few seconds, and we'll just get a sense of where you are at to help guide the conversation going forward. Yusuf, will you just let me know when we're done?
Yeah, Renette, you can put up the results.
Okay, that's very surprising, given that in the energy space, our assets are vital. I must say, though, that I have, in my experience and engagement with municipalities, having done some maturity assessments across municipalities, I have found in my engagement that when I speak to the technical directorates and ask them, are you familiar with the South African Asset Management Association? Are you familiar with the International Institute of Asset Management? They're not. They're not members of these associations. And it's quite important that we treat asset management as the discipline that it is. It requires people to understand what it means to manage assets across its life cycle, and now with digital transformation, how asset management has become digital asset management. There are roles, responsibilities, processes, governance mechanisms, best practices that need to be applied. And so that is quite revealing. So my talk today is about digital asset management. And I'm going to start maybe by giving an overview. So if we can move to the next slide, Yusuf. So I'm going to be talking about digital asset management, which is essentially at the heart of this discipline is improving asset efficiency, reliability, and predictive maintenance. So in the case of the energy sector across Eskom, municipal utilities, and IPPs, we're going to explore how we do that through data-driven tools, predictive approaches, and how you look at how these predictive approaches can extend the lifespan of our aging coal plants, optimize renewable assets, reduce operational costs, and and improve service reliability. And that is, particularly important in a system that is already challenged by load shedding and aging infrastructure. So this chapter in the research, just to let you know, it's the first chapter in the research and was designed to lay the foundation for the chapters that follow. And those chapters will deep dive into the specific digital technologies and concepts that are introduced in the asset management chapter. And I think a few weeks ago, there was a deep dive into AMI. This week, there will be a deep dive into some of the AI technology. So let's do some context setting. And before we deep into it, though, let's do some context setting as far as our utilities are concerned. And as we know, many of our utilities that are in operation today, our assets that are in operation today, particularly the large-scale generation, transmission, and distribution, were commissioned during the investment booms in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But since then, investment levels have not always kept pace with the need to grow and replace their asset bases. And this value chain, as it is right now, is unable to keep up or respond to the technologies which it really needs to leverage right now. So if we look at, I think it's Worldometer, it's called, clocks us at about 8.2 billion people. That's quite an achievement for us people. And what that really means is that clearly the demand for energy globally is growing. There's industrial expansion, population increase, and improved grid stability. Post-load shedding, of course, is driving a greater electricity consumption in South Africa as well. There's a report by Sanedi that highlights this rising energy demand as a key trend in the sector, and it's supported by the end of load shedding, of course, and current economic recovery efforts in South Africa. But we also know that in South Africa, total power capacity is expected to grow nearly 4 gigawatts, I believe, by 2032. And then there's also the diversification in supply. So we have a demand for energy, a growing demand for energy, and then there's the diversification of the supply itself. So our integrated resource currently outlines a significant large-scale solar, wind, gas, nuclear capacity. So for the first time, it is expected that cleaner energy resources are going to surpass fossil fuels. Additionally, contractable or contracted renewable energy has also surged. So that, widening from, I believe, 134,000 megawatt alternating current to 220,000. The megawatt alternating current, of course, being the unit used to measure the output capacity of the power plants in terms of usable electricity delivered to the grid. So together with the growing demand for energy and the diversification of the supply, the developments show that there's a clear, kind of trajectory that we can see. And this disruption along that value chain is changing the way utilities operate. So as they seek to leverage technology to respond to these shifts. But with our infrastructure aging, we can't leverage that technology. So practically, there is some happening. We have seen shifts, and we've seen first movers and shakers in this space. So in South Africa, digitalization is starting to drive efficiency and innovation. As the sector transitions from coal to a diversified mix of renewables, aligning, with the country's fourth industrial revolution goals to leverage technology for socioeconomic impact. And we look at some of these practical examples in the case of smart meters, Eskom and municipalities deploying smart meters in South Africa to provide real-time consumption data that enables accurate billing and demand-side management. While we have wind farms that may use IoT sensors to monitor turbine performance and predict maintenance needs, obviously with the aim of reducing downtime and improving efficiency, while IoT sensors in wind farms enable predictive maintenance. So these are some of the real practical examples of how these technologies are being used. From a data analytics perspective, data analytics capabilities are used by municipalities to analyze large data sets from grid operations, to forecast demand and optimize energy dispatch, reducing load shedding risk. And I think this is going to become an increasingly vital role that our utilities are going to be playing. The use of advanced control systems in solar PV plants allow for adjusting inverter settings based on weather conditions, obviously to maximize output. And then we have examples of smart grids that would include the pilot smart grid projects in Cape Town, integrating distributed energy resources, DERs, like rooftop solar and battery storage that allows the two-way energy flows between consumers and the grid. So what then is the opportunity, right? The opportunity is that the digitalization of the energy sector creates opportunities for value chain modernization. And with this comes the phasing out of our dilapidated end-of-life assets, as well as the introduction of new smart ones that will require new skills. We're going to delve in deeper into digital asset management in a bit. But before we do that, I would like to discuss some of the challenges that utilities are facing. And so, Yusuf, if we could just move to the next poll very quickly to kind of lead us into the conversation.
Sorry, everyone, I'm just having a technical issue here.
There we go. All right, so there's again 4 very quick questions I just would like to assess. What do you think are your biggest challenges in managing the energy sector assets? We're asking you their data accuracy and integrity, integration with existing systems, regulatory compliance, cost and return on investment. If you could just carefully consider and select all that apply to you, and hopefully, depending on what your responses are, we can deep dive into those perhaps and focus on those issues in the next slide. Right. So, okay. Cost and return on investment, yes. Integration with existing systems, absolutely. So, cost and return on investment, absolutely. There's a need for us, given the fiscal constraint that we have, to modernize. But with our aging infrastructure, the cost of modernization is going to be significant, and that of course is creating a challenge. I just want to check if I'm still audible.
Yes, you are.
All right, thanks. So there are some additional barriers to entry that we have, kind of also discovered during our research, and I'm going to focus on some of these now. So the skills gap ranks very high in our research. And that is the lack of skilled professionals in digital technologies. Obviously posing a barrier to implementation. So there's going to be a need to develop targeted training programs and partnerships with educational institutions in particular to help bridge that gap. That lack in skills gap, or that skills gap and lack of skilled professionals, including the brain drain that we experience, is partly contributing to the resistance to innovation. So not just the uncertainty about cost and return on investment, but there is also a resistance to this innovation as a result of the skills gap. So the cultural resistance to adopting the new technologies can hinder adoption and progress. And it's going to require promoting that culture of innovation within utilities and encouraging stakeholder engagement to facilitate the acceptance of digital solutions, fiscal constraints notwithstanding. Infrastructure investments, and I've just mentioned fiscal constraints, but significant investment in digital infrastructure is going to be necessary to support the deployment of digital asset management systems. So policymakers will need to prioritize funding for digital initiatives to ensure that utilities can modernize their operations. And then, of course, there's a need to respond to new integrated resource plan, RP of 2025, outlines very clearly planned capacity additions across coal, gas, wind, solar, and battery storage, along with targets for emissions and reduction and diversification and cost minimization. NERSA sets the allowable revenues tied to performance indicators, including the operating expenses, maintenance outlay, and service delivery efficiency. And for IPPs, for them, they need to meet contractual obligations related to local job creation, ownership, procurement, enterprise development, and NERSA monitors these outcomes as well. So when it comes to then information technology, the rate of adoption is clearly going to be constrained by some of these challenges. But it's also will constrain the ability to deliver results based on intelligent information. So having said that, and with all of these challenges, including the challenges that some of you have now identified in the poll, South Africa's ongoing energy crisis, with frequent load shedding and unstable power supply, has a mixed effect on digital technology. So on the one hand, power cuts disrupt ICT systems like data centers and online services. And on the other hand, they push companies to adapt by moving to cloud platforms and using smarter tools like IoT, right, for energy management. So for example, long outages, I think we had about up to 16 hours a day in 2023, cost the economy millions daily and made it very hard for systems like IoT.Next grid monitoring to work without power. So this shows the paradox, right, between digital solutions that need reliable energy, and yet they're also key to solving the energy problem, but they cost so much. So I think at this point, let's delve deeper into digital asset management. So if you can move to the next slide, Yusuf, please. Thanks. So let's just discuss enterprise asset management for those, because I saw you said in the poll that you're not very familiar with digital asset management. So there's another concept, enterprise asset management, and these two really go together. So enterprise asset management focuses on optimizing the entire life cycle of physical assets. So from procurement, maintenance, and operations to decommissioning. And your more sophisticated utilities are using tools like enterprise resource planning tools in platforms or ERP systems from them as well. So these IoT sensors, AI, and GIS, they provide across the asset life cycle that view of the asset. While digital asset management extends enterprise asset management by adding that rich digital intelligence. So your enterprise asset management is the management of the entire life cycle of the physical assets, which is a concept that must be followed in asset management. And digital asset management is adding the rich digital intelligence layer to physical asset management. So it ensures that every piece of content, from your manuals to your sensor logs, it's organized, it's accessible, it's linked to the asset lifecycle. To put it differently, your modern enterprise asset management systems integrate DAM capabilities, right? So documents, drawings, images, manuals, sensor metadata, all these critical resources are easily discoverable, version controlled, and accessible alongside the physical asset and its data across its entire life cycle. And the key here being digital life cycle management of the asset. Okay, so let's have a look at key challenges in the South African energy sector in particular. We can move to the next slide, please. So, digital asset management, we've discussed. So let's have a look at what challenges specific to the South African energy sector digital asset management could solve for. So firstly, grid stability and load shedding. So frequent outages disrupt operations and maintenance. We know that. What DAM would ensure is quick access to accurate digital grid or digital documentation, right? So schematics, your manuals, your compliance records, so your teams can respond faster during downtime and restoration. We also have a complex asset base. South Africa's energy mix is diversifying: coal, renewables, and storage. So DAM provides a centralized repository of digital assets linked to physical assets, and that again making the lifecycle management easier across multiple technologies. It also assists with regulatory compliance. So with the evolving frameworks like the IRP, DAM helps maintain audit trails, version control, and compliance documentation, thereby reducing risks during inspections and reporting. Renewable projects and microgrids are often in very remote areas in South Africa. What DAM does, it enables mobile access to digital resources, and that supports technicians and engineers in the field without relying on paper-based systems, offering very responsive remote and distributed operations. And then finally, there's efficiency and cost control. By integrating DAM with enterprise asset management, utilities can streamline those workflows. They can reduce duplication and improve predictive maintenance. And all this is really critical in a sector that's already under financial pressure. So as much as these digital asset management technologies are costly, and there is a concern around cost and return on investment, we almost don't have a choice if we want to drive efficiency and reduce costs to actually invest in these technologies. And so it's going to be a significant capital outlay to generate benefits further down the line. Can we move to the next slide, please? So within that context then, what are some of the trends that we see in the sector? So firstly, it's important to note that globally, the energy sector is pushed towards sustainability aligns with global net zero targets and the growing adoption of renewable energy resources. And it's expected that by 2050, renewables will account for over 50% of electricity production. So dams play a very critical role in managing assets across solar farms, wind turbines, and other renewable energy installations, and thereby ensuring operational efficiency and compliance with regulatory standards. Emerging technologies like the IoT, AI, and blockchain are revolutionizing the energy management at the moment. The IoT-enabled devices, they generate real-time data for predictive maintenance, while the AI algorithms optimize load balancing and enhance the grid stability. Blockchain facilitates secure, transparent energy trading and peer-to-peer grid management, while energy storage systems, such as batteries, play a vital role in stabilizing grids, ensuring that reliable energy source. So there are some major trends shaping the industry globally, but also locally. There are several organizations leading the charge. And in the next slide, we look at some of these technologies and case studies. We have some very good case studies in South Africa, and we certainly have some local movers and shakers. The report also has an extensive section that deals with case studies that you can delve into. I'm only extracting a few of those for this session today. So we can move to the next slide, please. So the Internet of Things. There's a very interesting study. It's Mezzanine Smart Asset Management Solution, or SAMS platform, as they call it. So this is deployed across South African municipalities currently, and SAMS uses IoT transducers to monitor active assets, so, your electrical grids, your water pumps, renewable energy installations. And the critical infrastructure is equipped with sensors that transmit real-time data on specific parameters like vibration, temperature, and energy output, right? According to Mezzanine, their system enables municipalities to prioritize maintenance for high-risk assets, reducing service delivery disruptions caused by equipment failures. And according to their case study in the city of Cape Town, I don't know if we have some Cape Town attendees online, SAMS reduced downtime in solar water heating systems by 22% within 6 months of implementation by identifying underperforming panels and scheduling targeted repairs. So that's just one case of IoT, right? If we move to the next slide, in the AI space, is the SAS Institute's predictive maintenance solutions, right? So they are deployed at several South African wind farms, and it uses AI to analyze turbine performance data. So that's by correlating the blade vibration patterns with historical failure rates. The system then identifies turbines at risk of malfunction up to 14 days in advance. And at the Jeffreys Bay wind farm, this technology reduced unplanned maintenance costs by 18% in 2024, while increasing energy generation efficiency by 9% through optimized turbine alignment adjustment. And moving on to the next slide, please. In the digital twin space, it seems to be moving way beyond the experimental phase now. A digital twin is a virtual replica of a physical asset, right? Or your process. It mirrors it in real time in terms of its status and its performance. South African energy companies are adopting this technology, for example, to simulate grid behavior, renewable plant operations, and equipment stress responses. So by integrating data from IoT sensors, the digital twin provides a comprehensive view of asset conditions. They enable operators to simulate various scenarios and predict outcomes. An example of this is digital twins that can simulate the impact of integrating renewable energy sources into the grid. That would obviously assist in effective planning and management. A relevant case study here would be, well, there's two actually. I think we've got one up, but Schneider's electrical grid digital twins is also a good case study. So the Schneider electrical grid study, it's of digital twins, which model South Africa's electrical grid infrastructure. So it's simulating scenarios like load shedding, renewable energy integration, and equipment overload. So in partnership with Eskom, the system was used to optimize power distribution during the 2024 winter peak demand period. That reduced grid instability incidents by 33%, according to Schneider. There's also obviously the Global ISO 55000 certification case study. And for those of you who are not very familiar with asset management and digital asset management, as the poll indicated, the ISO 55000 is the asset management standard. And so Global was the very first case study to get ISO 55000 certification for this case study in fact. And the Global as SA Management Services was certified for its renewable energy plans by implementing digital twin supported asset management frameworks. So there was an Aura project that integrated digital twins of its De Aar and Droogfontein solar plants to simulate maintenance schedules and energy output under varying weather conditions. And this reduced operational costs by 12% while extending the asset's life cycle by an estimated 3 to 5 years. Now, within our fiscal constraint, within the environment we are, the ability to extend asset life cycles is quite important. Moving on to the next slide. Blockchain, perhaps a technology that most people are not too familiar with, but it's being utilized to enhance transparency in asset ownership. So carbon credit trading and renewable energy financing. It's an immutable ledger system, a network of machines that ensures traceability and compliance with critical, and is quite critical for ESG reporting. So it's this decentralized ledger technology, right, that ensures that there's secure and transparent transactions that work across the network. And in the context of DAM in South Africa's energy sector, blockchain can be applied to manage energy transactions, to track asset ownership, and ensure data integrity. So, for example, blockchain enables kind of peer-to-peer energy trading, allowing consumers to buy and sell excess energy directly. So this decentralization promotes transparency in the transaction and can obviously lead to more efficient energy markets. And additionally, blockchain can secure the data collection from IoT devices, ensuring that its authenticity, that it's authentic and preventing tampering, because we know people like to tamper. So there's a case study, Sinan Energy's carbon tokenization. So their blockchain platform tokenizes carbon credits that are generated by its, I think, 100 megawatt Northern Cape solar and wind project. So each credit is recorded on a decentralized ledger, enabling that seamless trading on the global markets. And in 2024, this is quite interesting, the company raised $8.2 million through its initial token offering, funding the deployment of vertical axis wind turbines and gravity-based ESS, right? So this model has attracted international investors seeking verifiable ESG compliance, with 78% of tokens being purchased by European sustainability funds. So we can see the potential here to generate revenue that can be reinvested into the deployment of technologies. And so what this means for South Africa then is new finance models, right? So tokenization opens access to the global markets, attracting ESG-focused investors and reducing reliance on traditional funding. It also brings transparency and trust because blockchain ensures verifiable carbon credits, it strengthens compliance with international climate commitments, and it boosts investor confidence. And of course, accelerated renewable deployment. So funds raised through token offerings can finance innovative technologies like advanced wind turbines and speed up the energy transition. So, there we go, dealing with costs and return on investment. It also creates the opportunity for global market integration. So South Africa can position itself as a leader in green finance and in digital energy innovation, obviously creating exportable models for other emerging technologies. Subsequent sessions and in the research report, we delve into each of these technologies at length. Obviously, the initial chapter on asset management was to create the context and introduce these technologies and some of these use cases of how practically it is utilized across the energy value chain. If we can move to the next slide, please. As I've said, if you are interested, there are several other case studies by trend that is referenced in the report. It includes an analysis of both global and local digital solution providers, some of whom are on the panel today. It's just not possible to cover all of the case studies that are in the report in the presentation today, but there are some additional ones. I believe the presentations will also be shared, or the webinar will be shared. Just the last few slides. The next diagram really just attempts to tell the story of enabling technologies across the value chain. So if you look at AI computers that are employed or that employ machine learning algorithms to predict and identify at-risk sites and assets to prevent outages across the network. You have IoT sensors, such as those simple accelerometers that produce large volumes of data on the condition of assets as well. There are drones that provide three-dimensional imagery on the network and its assets. You have smart meters that automatically provide consumption data and real-time information from old. You have fully integrated digital solutions that are automatically updating stakeholders on supply interruptions in real time. You have a sharing economy built on a secure and self-verifying blockchain. You have augmented reality headsets that can provide instant information and visuals to improve operational performance. And you have AI customer service proactively engaging and responding to consumers. And ultimately, also needing cyber resilience that's built into all of these aspects of the IT landscape to protect against threats to the consumers and to the network. So it kind of just sketches the story or tells the story of all of these digital technologies within asset management and where they can be placed and how they can be utilized. In the next slide, we could move to the next slide, please. Okay, so we've discussed the benefits of digital asset management across the energy value chain, and I think two of the things that really stand out at this point is IoT and real-time monitoring, and the importance of AI and predictive analytics. Within the asset management lifecycle, predictive analytics, predictive asset management is one of the big challenges that we have. At the moment, we're reactive. If it breaks, we respond. We're not even predictive at the moment. We're trying to shift from kind of emergency breakdown maintenance to preventative, predictive and reliability engineered maintenance. But that requires tools, it requires technology so that you can have information and data at hand as and when things happen. So these are kind of the benefits that we experience within asset management from the adoption of digital asset management technology. So improving operational efficiency, data-driven decision making, optimization across the energy chain, predictive maintenance, and cost reduction. Obviously, grid stability and renewable integration being the ultimate goal of adopting these technologies. So to the last slide before we end off, just to cover some of the challenges and barriers that the sector is facing in terms of scaling digital asset management technology. So firstly, the challenge of dealing with legacy systems. Aging coal-fired plants struggle to interface with modern IoT platforms, and they're going to require costly retrofitting. South Africa's energy infrastructure, much of which was built decades ago, was not designed to support digital technologies. So integrating modern IoT platforms with legacy SCADA systems, supervisory control and data acquisition systems, and equipment presents significant technical challenges. So these legacy systems often use proprietary communication protocols, they lack standardized data formats, and have very limited processing power. So retrofitting them with IoT devices requires specialized engineering expertise and can be extremely expensive. Furthermore, the integrated process can disrupt operations and increase the risk of the integration process, or attempting to integrate the process can disrupt operations and increase the risk of system failures. So the lack of interoperability standards and open architecture then further complicates the integration of legacy systems with DAM technologies, and the resistance to change within established energy utilities and the lack of digital skills among the existing workforce also impedes the adoption of recent technologies. So our research has made some recommendations here, and it includes, from a technological perspective, implementing a very phased approach to retrofitting and starting with critical infrastructure. So use middleware solutions to facilitate integration with modern IoT platforms. From an economic perspective, prioritize retrofitting based on cost-benefit analysis and allocate the funds accordingly. From a social perspective, engage with stakeholders to manage expectations and minimize disruptions during the retrofitting process. And from a policy perspective, encourage government incentives for retrofitting through tax breaks or subsidies. Technologically promote the use of open architecture and standardized communication protocols to enhance interoperability. Encourage industry-wide adoption of open standards to reduce integration costs. Foster collaboration among industry players to develop and adopt common standards, and mandate open architecture standards in your infrastructure. We just need to. So skill shortages, I think we've mentioned it as one of the challenges, but it's also then a barrier to entry, right? In 2024, PwC did a survey and found that 68% of South African asset managers lack in-house AI expertise. So this is going to delay predictive analytics adoption, right? So the successful implementation and utilization of DAM technologies require a skilled workforce and expertise in data science, AI, cybersecurity, and energy systems. Pardon me. So I'm aware that the city of Cape Town, for example, they launched their data strategy. They have invested significantly in employing data scientists within the city as well. So this is going to have to happen. So we know that South Africa faces a significant shortage of professionals with these skills. We also have a lack of relevant training programs and educational opportunities in these areas. And the shortage of data scientists and AI specialists hinders the development and the deployment of predictive analytics. There's also a lack of cybersecurity professionals, right? That leaves the energy infrastructure vulnerable to cyber attacks. So we can't invest in technology if we can't secure technology. So there's the brain drain where skilled professionals are leaving the country for better opportunities. And it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We fail to innovate, we fail to modernize. Young professionals want to be in innovative, modern spaces, and so they leave to find the spaces where they're going to find innovation, they're going to find world-class tools and technologies being utilized. So the limited investment in training and development programs by energy utilities is contributing to the lack of in-house expertise. So some of our recommendations have been to develop training programs focused on AI and IoT and cybersecurity, to allocate a portion of the HR budget to training initiatives, social collaboration, across educational institutions, support and encourage government support vocational training program, developing new training programs. Cybersecurity risks, as I've mentioned, is a great barrier right now. So increased IoT adoption is exposing infrastructure to cyber attacks. So there's a 45% rise in attempted breaches in 2024, right? So this increased connectivity that is being brought about by IoT devices introduces financial or rather significant risks into the environment. So South African utilities are especially vulnerable to outdated security protocols, and there is a lack of investments in cybersecurity infrastructure, and of course the shortage of skills. So there's also third-party vendors and suppliers that are connected to the energy systems that can serve as entry points of cyber attacks. So this value chain is at risk and becoming increasingly at risk as we connect more and more parties to the grid. So, and we also have a lack of robust regulatory frameworks at the moment. So we're going to need to adopt advanced threat detection systems and implement firewalls to protect IoT networks, utilize a combination of intrusion detection systems and intrusion prevention systems, right, to monitor and block malicious traffic, invest in cybersecurity, conduct regular cybersecurity awareness training within your staff, and then collaborate with regulatory bodies. I think just to conclude that the adoption of digital technologies in South Africa's energy sector operates within a very complex policy and regulatory framework. So they both enable innovation, but they also present systemic challenges. And that's another way, guys, of saying we suffer from dissociative disorder, right? And an example of that is that the South Africa's national policy on data and cloud, the 2024 version, explicitly links energy reliability to digital infrastructure success, right? It mandates that data centers implement self-provisioning for electricity and water. That's to mitigate grid instability, right? And while this incentivizes renewable energy adoption, that's very critical for powering our IT networks and blockchain systems, it places significant financial pressure on smaller operators without capital for off-grid solutions. So the policy emphasizes on carbon emission reduction, aligns with the ESG-driven technologies such as the Sinan's energy blockchain, based on carbon credits, but its implementation timeline risks delaying IoT deployments in municipalities that are dependent on ESCOM's already strained grid. The ERA empowers NERSA to set technical standards for grid modernization. So that indirectly supports digital twin adoptions, right? And by requiring interoperability between legacy infrastructure and smart sensors. However, tariff setting mechanisms under the ERA remain very rigid, and so it discourages utilities from investing in AI-driven demand response systems. And at the same time, the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, or FSCA, they position South Africa as a regional leader in crypto regulation, right? Licensing no less than 60 digital asset firms in 2024 under the FIS Act, right? So this framework enables energy companies to tokenize carbon credits very securely, right? As blockchain transactions now require anti-money laundering protocols and cybersecurity audits. But the Reserve Bank refuses to recognize cryptocurrencies as legal tender, right? So it limits their role in peer-to-peer energy trading markets. And so it constrains decentralized solar microgrid projects. So these conflicts between, our national strategies, our bylaws, and other layers of complexity, this is kind of a compounding issue that's creating barriers for entry in as far as digital asset management technologies and adoption thereof is concerned. So these are just some of the examples. The report provides a regulatory overview of digital asset management and how the regulation is impacting. And what I just want to end off with, as I began, asking the question, what is the opportunity? Well, dissociative disorder notwithstanding, the digitalization of the energy sector creates opportunities for value chain modernization. There is no argument. But with this comes the phasing out of our dilapidated and old end-of-life assets. And again, with that, the introduction of new smart ones that will require new skills. So it's a brave new world, and you will see that there are many local movers and shakers, as I've shared with you, with the use cases, that are rising to the challenge, and they are challenging the system and forging a new path. So it can be done. It takes patience, it takes commitment, and I think it's going to be very important that you develop a community of practice where you share this knowledge, this experience, the use cases with each other, so that you learn through what others have done. And that essentially is it from me, folks. So I trust that made sense to you, and you found that useful, and that the session at least has adequately laid the foundation for understanding digital asset management and the technologies. The deeper dives into those technologies will take place in the subsequent sessions by my fellow panelists. So I'm going to end off there, but before I do leave, there is a final poll that I would like us to share, and that's just looking ahead. What do you believe will be the biggest, or which technology do you believe will have the biggest impact on asset management in the next 5 years?
Yeah, Renata, I think you can close it if everyone has answered.
AI and machine learning, IoT and sensors, blockchain for data integrity, cloud-based platforms. It's very insightful. AI and machine learning. Yes, I do think so. I think there's a cautionary tale here in terms of that. One, again, the skills and the capabilities and expertise that we have locally, the ability to set up AI labs, I think would probably be a very good idea so that we experiment in these labs, not just with the technology itself, but governance frameworks, regulatory environments, and policy implications, skills and capability, as well as the use cases for using AI and machine learning. I do agree that IoT and sensors absolutely will see a rapid increase in adoption. We already see that they are the easier technologies that people have already began to understand its impact and its uses and its benefits. Blockchain, certainly, I think it's still a bit of an unknown. There's still a lot of mystery around blockchain and data integrity. But as we digitalize the grid, it will become vital. And of course, cloud-based platforms as well. Thank you very much. I'm going to see if there are any questions. We might not be able to get through all of them, but if we don't, I will respond to you directly. Yusuf, is there time for me still to answer questions?
So I think in the interest of time, I mean, you can answer the questions either towards the end of the session, or you can just look at the chat for those specific questions and respond to them. But thanks, Siham, for the insights into the digital asset management. I think it was really insightful. And then next up, we have Avinash Singh, who's a senior manager in technology in the EY space, with total years of experience around 14 years. And he has extensive experience in the telecoms and communication space around setting up of AMI, smart meter grid solutions, both in the Middle East as well as Africa. And his primary focus around communication protocols and how we can leverage this across various sectors. I'll hand over to Avinash for him to take us through how the importance of connectivity in the world of utilities.
Thank you, Yusuf. Hello, everyone, and very good morning to all. Thank you for having me here and giving me the opportunity to speak over data and connectivity as a topic and how it can empower the overall digitalization in the energy sector. Yusuf, I think you can move on to the next slide. So, as we speak, I think so. My main topic is around how data sharing, digital infrastructure, and connectivity is empowering the energy sector. I'll dive directly into the topic. The rapid evolution of the digital infrastructure, connectivity, and data sharing is at the core of the sector's transformation. Innovations happening in the field of 5G, fiber optics, low power, wide area network, satellite communication, coupled with AI, big data analytics, blockchain, digital twins. These are a few of the technologies that are actually reshaping how energy can be easily generated, distributed, and how it can be consumed and how it can be managed. I'll be giving you a few of the examples that few of the utilities across the globe have been employing these different communication protocols and technologies that have been mentioned here. E.ON Germany has been employing NB-IoT and LPWAN technology basically to smartly connect and disconnect its meters, environment sensors, and which basically enables low energy, long range communication for continuous monitoring. We have satellite connectivity that has been employed within France by Electricité de France, utilizing satellite connectivity to basically monitor and manage off-grid energy assets, which are placed in rural areas or even in island locations where terrestrial coverage is not available. We have Wi-Fi 6 and mesh networks being deployed by Enel-X, Italy, enabling smart home and commercial buildings for smart energy management, automated demand side response. 5G, as we speak, has been deployed by maximum of the utilities across the globe. One stark example that I would want to give here is based out of China, which is by the China Southern Power Grid. It has successfully implemented its 5G technology to enable real-time monitoring and ultra-low latency control for its distributed solar energy storage and grid assets across its network. Fiber optics also, even though yes, it is one of the technologies or one of the protocols that has been there for quite some time, but still it has been critical and crucial in powering the overall energy distribution as well as the data that we have around the different energy assets. Duke Energy USA specifically uses fiber optic networks to connect its local substations with the different distributed energy resources, facilitating a seamless and a high-speed, secure communication network, which enables basically for grid automation and AI-based predictive analytics. Yusuf, maybe you can just move on to the next slide. Now that we've spoken a little bit about the different communication protocols and the technologies, let's discuss a bit about how secure communication coupled with data sharing between the energy consumers, prosumers, and the grid operators is unlocking different use cases within the energy value chain. Typically, if we see utilities handle two categories of data, which can be basically from the personal or the consumer data, or if it's non-personal related to asset, network, or operational data. Personal data or consumer data is basically with respect to the utilization or the consumption patterns, the customer demographic details, along with their behavioral insights around the energy consumption. Non-personal data would be basically used for overall optimization, forecasting, and infrastructure planning. The data usually basically relates to the grid assets, assets health, IoT and sensor related data. Now, when we couple both of these data together, we see that there are different use cases that emanate out of that. Few of them have been listed down over here. I'll be going through few of them and see how they have been employed across few of the utilities around. We see utilities like Stone Edge Farm, Microgrid USA. It has partnered with Southern California Edison and in using real-time data from distributed assets for advanced grid balancing and seamless outage management. E.ON Germany uses DERMS platforms to integrate different distributed energy resources in managing flexible connections for dynamic load management. We see that with the availability of this data, we empower the end customer or the end consumer as well. Few initiatives from countries like UK with initiatives like National Grid Consumer Access Devices enables households to basically monitor and respond to real-time consumption data, thereby participating in demand-side flexibility programs. Another stark example from USA Pacific Gas and Electric Utility enables dynamic pricing and demand response by employing smart meters and two-way bidirectional communication to offer real-time rates and demand response incentives. Along with this data, one of the biggest use case that we see across all the utilities is basically outage detection and restoration. Siham already has covered a lot around the asset management, and hence predictive analytics around any outage over here is something that we see unlocks the biggest potential around the energy value chain. Duke Energy being one of the pioneers in sharing real-time asset status data through its automated systems and thereby achieving faster fault isolation and service restoration via different smart sensors that are deployed around its assets. We see cross-sector collaboration in South Africa as well. Utilities partner with different telecoms to pool data, enhance grid visibility, and supporting multiple multi-sector decarbonization initiatives through different energy partnerships platforms. So likewise, there are these myriad of use cases that we see that gets unlocked when we couple both data sharing along with connectivity, which becomes the critical backbone of the overall infrastructure required for the modernization of the energy sector. So moving on, Yusuf, if you could just please move on to the next slide. Yes. So now that we've spoken a little bit around the different communication technologies, the communication protocols, how these different data sharing actually enables different use cases, we're seeing that the telecoms or the operators across the globe have actually trying to capitalize on this particular opportunity. The reason why I'm specifically talking about here around telcos and the operators, because they are the ones who actually have access, and not even just access, they are the ones who basically have this digital infrastructure handy with them, which basically marks also a step for them to move away from their conventional revenue streams like voice and data to the direct consumer and move more towards B2B related sectors, energy utilities being one of them, thereby empowering their digital vision through connectivity, 5G being the pioneer behind it. We're also seeing that telcos are able to position themselves as the supplier of this critical infrastructure and thereby innovating into different business models, which we call as the network as a service. We have seen that few telco providers have actually partnered with different OEMs from smart meters, from different data aggregation platforms, and provide the network or data as a service as a business model to a lot of utilities, wherein they take control of the deployment, procurement, and installation of the sensors, telco connectivity layer, obviously being the main USP, and along with their data aggregation platform. So the overall, if we see that yes, the opportunities from the telcos within the South African context, also there is a huge opportunity where they can play a major role in providing this particular critical digital infrastructure. In fact, they can be used as the main supplier or the service provider for these different utilities, for the different energy establishments across the overall energy value chain, where they can be used and leveraged for faster time to market. Just maybe, yes, maybe if you can move on to the next slide. So I touched base a little bit around the overall digitalization opportunities from the telco side. But speaking of both data sharing coupled with the critical connectivity infrastructure, we see there are several opportunities within the South African market. South African energy sector is at a point where it seeks its transition from the traditional unidirectional power distribution to a modernized grid, which is capable of supporting bidirectional energy flow, and hence the modernization effort to employ advanced metering infrastructure, real-time data analytics, IoT connectivity, and robust communication network falls critical and crucial behind it. The transformation is obviously also required because of the increased penetration of distributed energy resources, such as solar PV systems, battery storage, and EVs. While these technologies are definitely new and much advanced, but the age-old infrastructure is something that really needs to be transformed to enable these different use cases and the actual integration within the overall energy value chain. So modernization and grid, definitely there is a huge opportunity within the overall South African context. Secondly, establishing private network offices for secure grid operations. There is a huge opportunity there as well. Even though, yes, I did talk a lot about how there is an opportunity within the telcos to empower and to provide services to the utilities. But we've seen that a few utilities across the globe also take the other option of employing or deploying their own private 5G network or a much lower generation network for secure and a faster communication, depending on their different use cases. Obviously, a private network leveraging 5G, fiber optics, IoT connectivity can provide a secure and a high performance solution for energy utilities. With this, I'll move on to the next opportunity where we'll talk about AI and overall predictive analytics. Uh, we did touch base a bit around the aging infrastructure and the load shedding that persists within the South African LV grid. This can be much larger, being decapitated through the AI powered predictive analytics to minimize power outages and improve maintenance efficiency. We have specifically seen a huge adoption around AI and predictive analytics and specific use cases within the geographies like Europe and North America, where particularly predictive maintenance has reduced grid failures by over 30% and thereby cutting down maintenance costs by 25%. So 100%, this AI and predictive analytics holds a huge opportunity within the South African energy transformation context. And where connectivity and data sharing becomes critical is because it's these infrastructure that basically empowers the overall AI and predictive analytics. The next one is basically around having virtual power plants for renewable integration. So a virtual power plant basically aggregates or basically converges around a decentralized medium scale power generating unit, such as a wind farm or a solar park, combined heat and power unit, as well as flexible power consumers and storage systems. These integrated assets are managed through a central control system that aggregates their capacities, and therefore a virtual power plant can be very beneficial and crucial in terms of as we see that there is more and more integration of these distributed energy resources. One of the other big challenges that I also see that we also see within the South African context, and for which I'll be talking a little bit more in the forthcoming slide as well, is around having basically a national energy data exchange platform. The biggest challenge is basically around having lack of an integrated real-time data sharing framework within the country. Having this centralized energy data exchange platform can basically enable different utilities, municipalities, different regulators and consumers for seamless exchange of energy. The absence of such structured data sharing results in inefficiencies of energy related information, grid management revenue losses, and thereby having a national energy data exchange platform would act as a crucial point and as a centralized digital hub where real-time historical energy data can be securely shared, analyzed, and utilized to enhance grid stability. I think we can move on to the next slide. Specific use cases that I wanted to bring out over here is around the city of Cape Town municipality, the innovation that has been brought up around by Aramco Digital, and one of the key successful use cases that have been deployed around by Kaharama, which also is the water and electricity utility for the country in Qatar. Specifically on the Cape Town side, we see that Cape Town has successfully implemented its private LoRaWAN network with its IoT sensors and a VPN secured data transfer, which enables much better analytics, much better visualization around how the data has been moving around, how the energy has been consumed, and basically having different outcomes, which eliminates manual data collection, improve real-time visibility around its water network performance and its leak detections. Even though, yes, the municipality focuses on both water as well as around electricity, but particularly around the smart water management program, Cape Town has been uh, successfully been able to deploy this LoRaWAN private network. Uh, Moving on to Aramco Digital. Aramco Digital has been able to deploy its private 5G network along with its C-band spectrum network around 450 megahertz. They were able to actually get hold of the spectrum license, and Aramco Digital has been pioneering in terms of providing end-to-end industrial grade services, utilities, energy utility as a sector being one of them. Um Aramco Digital has been doing a lot of innovation around deploying the critical connectivity infrastructure at energy, oil and gas, mining, as well as different industrial gate sectors, uh, deploying IoT sensors, integrating its data with their AI-related platform. Outcome being 20 to 30% maintenance cost reduction, improved safety through remote monitoring and remote sensing, real-time control over the energy distribution. The next one that we have is around Kaharama. Kaharama, as I told you, is the water and the electricity regulator as well as the utility in Qatar. They have been able to partner with Vodafone Qatar to roll out 5G related smart meters as well as employ few 5G related use cases that have been really useful in overall energy forecasting, automation, and real-time analytics of data. Outcome being improved reliability and faster demand response, and overall operational cost savings and a digital customer experience. Moving on, we can move on to the next slide. So overall, if we see, we've talked about the different communication technologies, the different communication protocols. We talked about how data sharing coupled with this connectivity can enable these different use cases, how South African context as a whole has an opportunity to tap on and discuss about few of these different use cases. Specifically on this particular slide, I wanted to focus on few of the enablers that can actually help in empowering the overall modernization and digitalization around the energy sector in the South African context. We still see that there are fragmented infrastructure across transmission, distribution, and distributed energy resources, which overall limits seamless energy data flow and system interoperability. And hence, having a unified digital energy infrastructure which is interoperable, is something that can be really helpful for a seamless and a real-time energy operation. We have been talking a lot about the critical infrastructure, but having an inadequate capital investment and a financial barrier towards this can definitely hinder in the large scale digital infrastructure deployment, and hence having the right strategic investment and financial mechanism can definitely enable few of these digital infrastructure related initiatives that can overall help in the South African energy sector modernization. Uh, there is still a lack of centralized energy data governance, or we can say as a data governance or a data management related framework specific to energy, and hence this limits our capability towards predictive insights, operational efficiency, and real-time decision making. And therefore, having a standardized data management and analytics related policy or framework can really help in standardizing most of these initiatives related efforts. Absence of a clear regulatory framework for smart grid deployment, data privacy, and digital energy market participation is something that where we actually see a huge opportunity again. Having these right policies and regulation in alignment towards these different initiatives can foster multiple players within the country, foster participation, much higher participation from the different OEMs, making it easier for them to actually do innovation, which can be easily be incentivized as well. Decentralized market platform and energy trading by enabling blockchain-based peer-to-peer energy trading and dynamic pricing for transparent power-driven markets. Currently, we see that there are traditional centralized energy market models, and which usually limit the overall distributed energy resource participation and consumer-driven energy trading, and hence decentralizing that is something that can be really helpful in the DER participation. Legacy grid systems are still there. Modernization of the grid systems through advanced smart grid technologies like AMI, artificial intelligence. Again, there is a huge opportunity, and thereby modernizing these can enable different use cases. Lastly, on the workforce side, we see that there is a huge opportunity in terms of upskilling the energy professionals in the space of AI and data science, as well as cybersecurity, thereby enabling more and more personnel within the overall advancement and the digitalization of the energy sector. And lastly, on the consumer engagement and behavioral incentives, we should work more and more to empower consumers through real-time insights, providing them with dynamic tariffs and incentives for active energy participation. So this is all from my side. I think there are a few questions that have been mentioned here. Otherwise, Yusuf, please let me know if.
Yeah. Thanks, Avinash. I think you summed it up quite nicely around the key need for bidirectional communication and data infrastructure. I think because it enables opportunities such as, like you mentioned, AI analytics, demand balancing, integration of renewable energy sources, and grid management. So I think this is a key component for us to get right as a foundation in the country as well. Yeah, and I don't see any specific questions for you at this moment, so I'll just continue to move on. But if there is any questions, please post it into the Q&A chat box. Next up, we have Ana Dominguez, who's a partner in the Lisbon office for EY, looking at the technology consulting in AI and data. She has over 25 years of experience specializing in the ICT sector for power and utilities. And as both a speaker and author on utilities around business challenges, and she designed and executed CGI's global utilities and smart grid strategy. I'll hand over to Anna now, who will take us through one of the key or hot topics around AI, specifically in the energy sector.
Thank you, Yusuf. If you can take us to the next slide, please. So, AI is now a huge topic, and why AI now? Right? It exists since the 80s, 60s. So why is it that it has become so important and everybody talks about it? Well, first, it started with the fact that there are some convergent evolutions of technologies that allowed AI to actually advance. One is the costs of computing that have, just plummeted. Another one is the increase on availability of data scientists and AI engineers that allow that the use cases and data to proliferate, to be leveraged. The proliferation of data that is critical to train any kind of AI models. And the convergence of these have allowed to then AI to mature and become now what we see as a democratized technology through the emergence of ChatGPT and many other foundational models and interfaces to them. So AI is now here, and anyone in the energy sector is trying to understand how they can leverage it. A lot is still around enhancing productivity and getting some savings out of it, but it is coming to the realization of many that without AI, it is really challenging to tackle the challenges of the energy transition. So looking at efficient ways of optimizing the whole energy system, how to increase the reliability of the grid, which is critical then to integrate higher levels of renewables in a more distributed manner, not just utility scale, and therefore support the decarbonization of the grid and sustainability goals. Now, what is that AI can actually bring to solve some of these challenges? I would just highlight two aspects. One is that you need AI to actually increase the predictability of the future. We all know that, with renewables coming into place, unpredictability is increasing because of intermittency of this type of generation. And so you need AI to improve the forecasting capabilities. And then these forecasts can, second point, be used by optimization decision engines, AI-based, that actually can look for the best next step, the best next plan to solve for major energy system challenges. So in the next slide, just a little bit of what is driving, from an energy perspective, the need for adopting AI. And the fact is that we will see, and the projections are a huge increase in decentralized energy resources being plugged into the grid. International Energy Agency forecasts that 70% of these DRs will be plugged to the low voltage grid, which is already a very fragmented grid, very capillarized, and increasing the challenge on how are you going to orchestrate all of these assets. The second point is that there will be a huge need of flexibility, capacity. According to EY's, our own energy modeling launched a year ago, we expect the need of flexibility capacity to have to triple by 2030. An opportunity for grid operators, but also increasing hugely the level of complexity. We also expect, renewables to be faster integrated. It is important to solve a number of challenges that AI can help with, and I'll have some examples just next. Just in US and Europe, we have more than 1,500 gigawatt of renewables capacity queuing, waiting for connections to the grid. And then we also have the importance of bringing the consumer more into being part of solving for the energy transition. We need them to actually start having more technologies behind the meter, solar panels for sure, but batteries as well. And batteries become extremely important for the integration of renewables. We expect that there will be the need to scale energy storage capacity by 2030, according to the last International Energy Agency report. But the fact is that within EY's analysis of the market, we have concluded that the ancillary services monetization gains by battery energy system operators actually decreased 7 times. So we need the batteries to be profitable to actually be deployed in the market. How are we going to ensure that they can have the role they have and be profitable so that we can have the scale of deployment of batteries? So just a little bit of a snapshot here in terms of how the importance of AI for the energy transition and energy system. And in the next slide, I can get into a little bit more of details around how AI can actually then get into some more of the functions and why it's needed and what it's being used for. I think an important aspect is that only AI can handle the complex interactions that we are expecting in the energy system to arise. And we already see some geographies like Australia and California that have a huge deployment of distributed energy resources and batteries and hybrid power plants with solar and wind and batteries all together, already facing the challenge of solving for these complex interactions, and only AI can actually analyze the millions of possibilities of optimization that you can have in orchestrating all of these assets. Only AI can leverage these large volumes of all types of data and analyze them simultaneously, being structured and unstructured data, time series, or more of historians. And only AI can look at all of these patterns and do this in real time. So I just want you to have this as a background as we look into some more of the use cases. But AI can be used in almost any area of an organization, especially as we start looking at generative AI. And many of you must have heard about already of agentic AI, and I will have a touch point around that as well. So for those that are not familiar with agentic AI, while generative AI can summarize and give you some answers to your questions, agentic AI can have a goal. They can plan all the tasks that are needed to achieve that goal, and they can execute on the tasks if you wish as well. And that's where things are going, actually, to more autonomous operations, more autonomous workflows, autonomous enterprises. And that's where the energy system will also need to go if we are really going to tackle the complexity that is coming on our way. So can be used anywhere in the organization, for marketing and sales, and for products and services. A huge focus on looking at how can you achieve hyper-personalization, understanding of your customers, tailoring products and services. But very important, generative AI and agentic AI are now being heavily used into the customer service area, improving the customer experience. You are going from chatbots with rule-based to having agentic AI that can actually navigate the complexity and the nuances of a client's request and challenge and go through the different systems in an organization, fetch the answer, and even act on making a payment or changing a pricing scheme for that customer. Also very important for legal and compliance, you can have AI agents that crawl through all the news and crawl through all the type of documents and can summarize, but also provide recommendations for next best action and even changing policies for you. And the same goes with research and development. And in this case, AI can look at all the possibilities of the next best molecule for a battery or the next best molecule for a medicine and accelerate research by years. And that is hugely important for the energy system because we definitely need the next generation of batteries if you are really going to go to the levels of needs that we have in the system. And then for operations, you think about grid operations, power plant operations. So it can, as I said, if you have better forecasting data sets of all kind coming from open data sources such as weather data or your own sensors and IoT systems, then you can start looking into improving those forecasts and use them to optimize your operations in real time. Of course, with humans in the loop, at which levels, depending on reliability of data, sophistication of the systems, and where you are on your AI journey. So if we move to the next slide, then getting a little bit more into the specific use cases more related with customer experience. As I said, a lot of moving into the personalization, hyper-personalization even, which is each customer has its own specific treatment. And this is possible because, AI can look at the patterns of the historians you have of the customers. You can have agents that look at how best to categorize all of those data into different segments of customers and look for what would be, the best, for example, pricing scheme that you have for that customer. It can proactively, even if you go to the next section, provide energy saving tips. Sorry, the previous slide, energy saving tips, and it can on the go, as I said, even changing the pricing schemes for that customer if you have an agentic AI customer experience virtual assistant. Now, very important as well is supporting decision making, not just analyzing and summarizing the documents, but as I said, it can crawl all the regulatory frameworks that exist in a specific country. It can, in real time, observe changes and trigger alerts to anyone in an organization around changes in regulations that are important to them. So AI agents can now observe for you changes in the external conditions, as in changes in in a public website of a new regulation that is published, and autonomously bring that to the eyes of whoever is following regulations. And then for investment decision making, this is being hugely explored in terms of energy companies. That is a lot related with the needs for investment, for planning, for grid investment planning. Where is it that you need to reinforce the grid next? What is the business case for that? What are the flexibility loads that may exist in the system in 5 years' time, 10 years' time? How do you plan for that? And training and development, it's an area that is most prevalent, especially for basic training, I would say, and helping each individual to define their personalized training track by leveraging the different capabilities that you may have in a energy organization. So if you move to the next slide, getting here into some more examples now, more around the operations, that's what I wanted to go. First of all, around the grid, as I said, extremely important to have AI being really embedded and baked into the grid departments for planning and for operations. You can't possibly manage all the complexity of managing the grid operations in real time to avoid congestion, to avoid outages, to avoid damaging assets and then having huge costs with its repairing. And so for the grid, you have the ability to optimize your operations plannings, searching for across millions of possibilities, what would be the best next day ahead operations planning if you are facing a storm or facing congestion. Also, use cases that are coming up, and I need to accelerate, around control rooms. How do you create another level of, let's say, agentic AI on the control rooms so that the operators can have an assistant that goes through all the alarms that are flashing and is able to prioritize them, cluster them, and even create best next action for the operator to progress. Very important on generation optimization and trading. We have a couple of examples. How are we going to ensure that the renewables are actually profitable so that the capital is interested in investing in this sector? So how can we triple renewables if they are not profitable? So that's the conundrum, and AI has been used quite considerably by the most advanced operators in this area to maximize their profits in the power markets and other ancillary markets. So if we move to the next slide, just getting into some use cases here, into more detail. Now, predictive maintenance or advanced asset maintenance strategies is a huge area of focus of energy companies all across the value chain, from generation, transmission, distribution, and down to supply if you are catering for the smart meter, for the AMI infrastructure, for example. And so it's an area that has been evolving. Predictive maintenance is complicated. You can think that you need to develop a machine learning model for each piece of equipment that you have in a power plant. So you can end up with 1,000 different machine learning models for predictive maintenance. And adding to that, you need a lot of data to train the models. And then adding to that, a very important aspect is you need the engineers to actually trust the models and start following the predictions out of that model. I am an engineering by background, and I was a true engineer for more than 10 years. So I know exactly how they feel, especially in the electricity world, where you need to any blackout will hinder the economy and will make the news, right? So the culture is really a culture that is very risk adverse by nature. So all of that requires that we think as well of a journey, right? So when we think about new levels of asset maintenance, we think about detecting outliers, detecting anomalies, then move into more of condition-based maintenance, as in you have more information on the condition, you already have some support in terms of detecting outliers, and then you can start moving into higher levels of advancement of maintenance, like predictions, right? So when you hear about predictive maintenance in the market, it's all of these things encompassing. So we have lots of energy companies progressing in this. Duke Energy in the US is just one of them, and they wanted to progress with higher levels of predictive maintenance. They wanted to focus their efforts on the transformer and circuit breakers, and they looked at 10 years of historic time series data. So you need to have that data stored somewhere. Some would be of good quality, others not so much. And then you need to look at multiple data sources to actually provide the model with all the patterns and combinations and events and causes and effects that the model can learn from and start creating a perspective of what is an outlier, what is a defect, and start alerting for deviations. Very important. Engineers and experts need to be part of the training of the models, because they will, by using the model itself, they will start providing information whether the model is being correct or not, and that information will be backed into the model and improve the model. I highlight this because adoption and change management is critical for these use cases to actually flourish. And so if we don't have the engineers understanding the role they have in making the models work and improve, these models will never be used. But the outcomes are extremely, extremely appealing. And that's why you see, despite all of these difficulties, energy companies progressing with it. In the next slide, I have now a very different case focusing on demand forecasting. Now, this is becoming a kind of a commodity on traditional AI, if you want, in the energy space. There are a multiple set of forecasting capabilities that need to be baked into finally getting to good demand forecasting results. And it can be used for many different use cases, many reasons. You can use demand forecasting to understand your grid operations, to understand your grid planning, but also, and this is being used a lot, to optimize your generation planning to match the best prices in the power markets, right? So, and that means that you need forecast demand, forecast generation, forecast power prices, merge all of these, and ensuring that you have your renewables power plant or renewables fleet producing when the prices are higher, and when you expect curtailment, maybe the best is that you plan for reducing production at scale, right? So, and that requires a huge orchestration and optimization decision engines at a very reliable level. That is possible already. So, AES in the US is using all kind of possibilities of demand forecasting, and they have been able to inject more energy, 9% more into the market, which means they saw the value in monetizing this energy in the market and ramp up production by ensuring that they do that when the energy prices are higher. Now, this is hugely important for renewables, as I said. It is really critical that renewable operators have the AI capabilities in place that help them leverage the volatility in the power markets and explore also other possibilities from other capacity market, from other power markets, capacity, ancillary markets, etc. So in the next slide, another example now that talks to the importance of integrating the previous one, integrating in the renewables, integrating renewables. Now, Google and DeepMind has partnered for many years already. So important to note, this is not a case study or project that Google started a year ago. Now, they started this project 6-7 years ago. So even before generative AI and ChatGPT and agentic AI, because AI is in place for quite some time. And for some companies that started early on the journey, they were able already to use AI in manners that would provide value. So Google, as you may know, have huge amount of data centers, and they need a lot of energy to power those data centers. Google also have very ambitious sustainability goals, so they want to power those data centers with renewables supply. And but to do that, they needed to make sure that they had a business case for it, right? And so they partner with DeepMind, which is a startup in the AI field, and a startup that has been working with many renewable generation scenarios. And they developed a neural network that allows to optimize the power output forecasts. Not maximize, it's optimize. And so through that optimization, they were able to, monetize better 20% more of their energy than it would be the case with traditional approaches without AI. Again, what is behind this? Well, behind this, you have all these forecasting capabilities that you need to maximize in terms of accuracy and in terms of timeliness. And to do that, you actually need to fuse multiple forecasting data sets and other data sets. You can infuse SCADA information, weather forecasts. You can infuse information if you have added some more sensors into your power plants, and infuse all of that to improve the forecasting of the production that will be coming out, of the demand that may be there, and the power prices as well. And use an optimization decision engine, which is basically a very advanced machine learning model or an AI model, depending on the models that you are using, and is able of orchestrating the different the assets that you have in production and the power prices, as well with the ability of a solar panel or a wind farm to produce that energy at the time that is required. The sun doesn't shine when you want, right? So you need to be able to forecast that and then orchestrate with the power prices. Now, this gets into a highly complex system if you think that we are moving at great speed into hybridization of the power plants. You have quite a lot of cases already of wind plus battery, especially with solar plus batteries. I mean, solar became not that profitable, given the proliferation of solar panels and the fact that the demand of energy many times does not match when the sun is shining. So blending solar panels with batteries became extremely important to actually make these power plants profitable. But you need to orchestrate the batteries as well. You need them to charge and discharge in a manner that doesn't destroy the battery lifetime. You need to ensure that you sell the solar power generated when the power prices are high, but you want to use that to charge the battery when there is curtailment and the power prices are negative, which has happened many times with the introduction of solar panels in many of the power markets. So all of that is hugely complex, and it has to be done in near real time. So in the next slide, just a final one, moving forward, not yet prevalent, but getting a lot of attention, again, because of the complexity. Do you know that the engineers that work in the energy control rooms have to be trained during 10 years before they even do anything on the control room? And then you have to have two people every time so that they watch out one for each other, because human brains get tired and you may not see a certain alarm that is critical for the network. It's hugely intensive, and it is only going to get complex beyond human capability to actually control it. So the progress of energy companies into more and more advanced energy control rooms is a given. It has to be done. But there is a journey to that as well, right? So this case is NL Green Power. So again, a renewables control room where they have deployed AI-driven virtual assistants for the engineers that are controlling in the control room. And a lot about alarms. There are many, many alarms. Some are important, others are not. How do you create an augmentation of the capabilities of that controller with AI, agentic AI, that actually helps the controllers with clustering the alarms, prioritizing the alarms, providing recommendations on next best action. And with agentic AI, and this is quite embryonic still, when the human decides, let's go, it just pushes the button and the agent executes the actions. So if we move to the next slide, and I think I should be concluding now, just a snapshot, AI can be used in so many examples across the value chain. My recommendation is, depending on where you are on the AI journey and on the ambitions, the strategic intent on AI, you can be a solid follower of what others have already been doing. There are multiple use cases that are proven in the market that have delivered value, and that are the ones that a solid follower should go for. A fast follower will use those as a quick wins and will start looking into the next wave of more advanced use cases. And the leader, of course, is looking for the moonshots, looking for autonomous operations, autonomous control centers, autonomous power plants. And that is coming already. So there are already examples of fully autonomous power plants leveraging AI and agentic AI. So in the next slide, talking a little bit about, the specifics of South African landscape. I've seen a little bit of other presentations, so I know you've gone through some of these challenges. So I will just provide you some insights of my experience of working with multiple energy clients. And first of all, these challenges are very common across the world. That's the first thing, and if I look at the legacy system, the most important challenge is data, volumes of data, quality of that data, to ensure that you can actually train the models, that you can actually feel safe in giving that data to generative AI models, and even more complicated to agentic AI. So data is a key aspect of that. It's not about go and have a 3 years program cleaning all the data. It's about choosing which use cases you want. But iteratively, it's not just about the business value. It's not just about the technical feasibility. It's a lot about the quality and the existence of the data. Good news are synthetic data is now becoming more and more accurate. So in the absence of data, it is now possible with really good accuracy to create synthetic data and use that data to train the models. Now, skills shortage, I think we have heard a lot about it, but I wanted to focus on change management and adoption. It's not just about having skills of people that know AI, data scientists, AI engineering, AI scientists. It's also about ensuring that the people that are going to use the tools actually understand AI and then understand generative AI and agentic AI. So they need to be reskilled if actually AI is going to be adopted. And I'm going to say the obvious, but there is no point in developing solutions that people do not want to use in the end. Value will not be realized. Regulatory frameworks, depends a lot on the geographies. It's a huge thing that has to be incorporated when you think about AI. If you are starting with some use cases, it's about looking at specifically at biases, complying with certain regulations in the market. But if you want to scale, it's really important to have an AI governance in place that can actually even automate some of the mechanisms to monitor the solutions as they get created, developed, and even more important, deployed. For investments, it's always a challenge, right? Because AI requires some considerable investments. I mean, generative AI has been democratized the access, and so it has created more off-the-shelf capabilities that can be used. And so there are areas that there are accelerators, I would say, of deployment of AI in terms of the investments that are required. In the next slide, we have some solutions, and I think I have already started talking about some of them. The ecosystem is a very important aspect of an AI program. And it is about partnering with vendors, that's for sure, but also about understanding what you're going to build, buy, or partner with, right? Depending on what you have in your legacy system. And as things progress so fast on AI, having an ecosystem that actually help you take those decisions is key. Another approach, and also related with investments, is how do you set up your AI journey, your AI roadmap, in terms of how are you going to develop some use cases, for example, that release some savings that you can reinvest on the next wave of use cases. For the skills shortage, besides the typical ones that we have been discussing, creating an AI academy for the workforce, but also establishing partnerships with academia that actually help accelerate not only the development of the use cases, but also the reskilling. And how do you set up programs that allow you to get earlier into onboarding and hiring data scientists and data engineers? And I think I've covered quite a lot of ground here. Yusuf, I'm not sure if there are questions.
Not at this point. Not at this point. I don't see any specific questions around the AI piece, but if anyone does have, happy to share it with Anna, and then she can answer those questions even post the session. But thank you so much, Anna, for your time and schooling us in AI and how it's so fastly evolving. Might seem scary for some, but I think it's something where it's headed, and all organizations are using this going forward. So it's best that we start learning and moving in this turn. But thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me here, and have a great session. Thank you.
Thanks. Cool. Next, we have the SAP team who will be giving us some industry case studies. So we have Suzanne, who's an industry solution expert on enterprise asset management for SAP, specifically around the utilities and nuclear sector. She has a strong background in the business architecture. She supports multiple utilities around their digital transformation. And she integrates enterprise asset management across the entire value chain and enhancing operations from generation, transmission, as well as distribution. She's also supported by two of her colleagues, Ivan and Hannes, who also have over decades of experience around asset management and industry value advisor for multiple utilities across the African continent. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Suzanne and team to take us through their point of view from a SAP perspective.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Yusuf. If you could let me know that you can indeed see my screen, it would be great.
We can see it. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm delighted to share the SAP point of view, and we're excited to share our vision on how utilities can actually harness the digital tools that we have, not just to manage assets, but also to drive smarter, more sustainable decisions, helping utilities to deliver reliable but also cost-effective services to their communities. So throughout the session, we will explore some real-world examples and success stories, and we also will discuss how SAP solutions are positioned to support customers in this journey, and also look into how you can leverage digital innovation to improve the efficiency, the reliability, and sustainability, which are key drivers we see for modern utilities. So we're looking forward to engage with you on this exciting journey of advancing asset management from data to decision for utilities. So very quick introduction. On the SAP side, we are a global leader of enterprise application software, providing innovative solutions that help organizations streamline their operations and achieve a digital transformation. And specifically in the utility sector, we have a significant footprint. We offer tailored solutions that address the complex needs of energy providers around the world. And as an industry, it's actually an industry that we have been active in for more than 35 years. And this broad of expertise we also bring into our solutions as well. So having outlined our role and the impact of the utility space, I would like to turn the focus now to a critical component of driving the efficiency and reliability, and that is around the strategy of asset and service management. So as we all know, the global energy sector is undergoing a profound transformation marked by transitioning from the traditional centralized power generation models to a more decentralized and digital integrated systems. And here, digitalization really plays a crucial role in this transformation, referring to the integration of digital technologies into generation, distribution, and the consumption of energy. But it also underpins the use of smart meters, sensors, data analytics, but also advanced control systems to optimize the energy production, enhance the grid management, but also to improve the efficiency and enable real-time monitoring and decision-making. And the aging infrastructure, but also the raising power generation costs and the need to adapt to disruptive technologies are all increasing the pressure on utilities to invest in maintaining, expanding, but also modernizing their service delivery assets. And let me start by outlining how we, from an SAP point of view, see the overarching strategy for asset and service management. And our approach is grounded in delivering connected, intelligent, and sustainable operations that help our customers unlock greater value from their physical and digital assets, such as power plants, transmission lines, but also distribution networks. by maximizing the asset performance and to deliver maintenance and service excellence. And we do that based on 3 pillars. The first one is connected processes. So really throughout the whole end-to-end process, make sure that every step is connected. The second pillar is around data, to really have that complete view of the asset and the asset lifecycle. And the third pillar, we already heard a lot about it, is around AI, to really unlock insights and to automate processes. So with that strategic foundation in place, I would like to talk to you about the 3 main key objectives that we see when we're in conversations with customers when it comes to asset and service management in the utilities industry. And the first topic is really around asset reliability and uptime. And then I'm talking about regularly monitoring the asset performance with IoT and AI to assess the asset health, identify anomalies, and predict failures ahead of time. But it's also about optimizing the maintenance backlog planning and scheduling to maximize resource utilization, the asset performance, and customer service levels. The second objective focuses around to optimize the total cost of ownership. So really closing the loop between the different business processes to connect the whole asset life cycle, but also to integrate maintenance and services across the supply chain. And the third pillar focuses on ensuring regulatory compliance, safety, and sustainability. And this is really where AI-powered solutions extend the asset lifespan by managing risks and prevent failure through advanced anomaly detection and predictive maintenance. But it's also focusing on reducing the environmental emissions by, for example, optimizing the travel routes of your technicians and running assets at the optimal performance to minimize the energy consumption. And to conquer these objectives, it requires that every asset and service management process works in unison. And I already discussed it as well in the previous sessions as well. If you look at the foundation of AI, AI needs trusted data and reliable processes to really deliver value. And from an SAP point of view, we see at the bottom the applications, the business suite, to really support you in your end-to-end asset management lifecycle, not just the planning and the scheduling part, but also focusing on the asset performance management side of the house, but also on working together with your service providers or your OEMs. Then as a second layer, we have what we call the unmatched data. This is where we can harmonize the information from both the SAP system, but also from non-SAP sources within SAP Business Data Cloud. And this gives AI a comprehensive 360-degree perspective of your assets. And effective asset management is crucial in maintaining the reliability and efficiency of the energy systems. And this is where the digital tools such as sensors, but also analytics and asset performance management systems can enhance the data collection, the analysis, and the decision-making processes. And then on top, we have our unrivaled AI. And this is where the right data meets specialized agents, where you can unlock potential for continuous optimization across your asset management processes within the application. So really that synergy between applications, data, and AI creates a reinforcing cycle of innovation. And these innovations close the loop and support the 3 objectives that we just mentioned, from robust maintenance strategies to executing them with precision and efficiency. So this approach not only just maximizes the efficiency, but also maintains the integrity and reliability of your assets over time. And as digitization plays a crucial role in this transformation that utilities are undergoing, referring to the integration of the digital technologies in generation, distribution, and the consumption of energy. So this has been really focusing on the second and the third pillar of our strategy from the point of view that we close the loop from a data perspective. But now let's have a look at closing the loop also from a process perspective. Because in order to maintain the current grid, but also to support the soaring electricity demand, our vision is that we need to close the loop from maintenance strategy to execution. And at the foundation, you have your asset master data. It can come also from your OEM and where you can collaborate together. Then as a second step, you want to define your asset maintenance strategy. So doing your risk assessment and your reliability engineering. And when you have that in place, you can focus on the next step, defining your maintenance plan, your rules and activities. For example, when certain thresholds are exceeded, that triggers a certain follow-up action. So when you have put that framework in place, you can start on focusing on monitoring the asset health and create the maintenance demand, either coming from your maintenance plans, or in this case also coming from monitoring the asset health and the rules that you have put into place because a certain threshold has been exceeded and therefore a maintenance notification or a maintenance order has been created. And when we have the maintenance demand, we really want to start planning the maintenance task that needs to be executed and align it with the right resources. So when the planning and the scheduling has been done, our technicians can go out in the field and actually perform the maintenance and really capture the data as well. So what we typically saw is that they will go out with pen and paper. We now see them going out much more often with tablets or smartphones, and an easy way for them to capture all the information back into the system. So when they have performed the maintenance work, then of course you want to analyze the work that they have been doing and also really capture that information to feed it back into the asset strategy, because the input that your technicians provide might want you to be able to adopt the maintenance strategy that you have put into place. So really having established that closed loop also from a process point of view, where the strategy seamlessly goes into execution and the output goes directly back into the strategy as well. So let's have a deeper look at the asset lifecycle when it comes specifically to utilities. Because in utilities, when we're talking about asset management or talking about maintenance, it's not just that, there's a whole life cycle that goes beyond. It's about ensuring long-term reliability, regulatory compliance, and the return on infrastructure investments, often across decades. And this is where utilities face a unique challenge in having the aging infrastructure, increasing service demands, but also the need to integrate renewable energy or smart grid technology. And each of these put pressure and have impact on how assets are planned, deployed, maintained, and eventually also retired. So when we start at the first phase, the invest to commission, this is actually where we see two pots coming together from an asset management point of view. The first part is really starting from the own assets point of view, like for example with a wind, solar, or a hydroelectric power plant. But the process can also start coming from a customer request to have a meter installed at their new home that they're building. And then in the end, the asset is being commissioned, either a plant or at the customer home. And then you start with the second phase, the reliability assessment and the recommendation management. And that then leads into the health monitoring, the work management, and then the plan, schedule, dispatch, and execute phase. And in the end, eventually you will retire some of those assets. So our asset and service strategy is built to support this full life cycle, whether it's digital planning tools for new capital projects, mobile unmanned field service, or predictive analytics for asset performance. We provide the full end-to-end to utilities to support you in the end-to-end process. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the portfolio before diving into further in the topic of asset performance management. Because it's connecting all the dots that you have as a company. And at the core, we have our enterprise asset management system. And for this is actually infused with already business AI capabilities. But also I think it's very important to highlight as well is that we also follow the core Institute of Asset Management principles in this area to ensure that we connect the technology to the corporate strategy and business requirements. And as an official member, we align our asset management technology with those standards and best practices required by world-class maintenance organizations, such as the ISO 55000 series. And there's also a blog behind it as well, where you can dive into more details on how we do that. But it really enables utilities to transform from reactive to predictive strategies. So one of the topics in that case with regards to also strategic asset management planning, on the one hand side, you have your projects that are going on, but you would also like to have an understanding, do we have the spare parts in place? Do we have the right resources? And not just for a time period for 6 to 12 months, we're really talking about a horizon for the coming 5 to 10 years, looking at all the projects that are going on. Then, of course, you have your asset master data and the collaboration on the master data to build up your asset registry within your asset management system. Then the asset performance management, where we're looking on the one hand side into your strategy part, but also really the health monitoring part, and I will dive deeper into that in a little bit. And of course, the planning, the scheduling, and the dispatching part, where there are multiple ways on doing the planning that can be very easy, like manual on the day-to-day ad hoc planning, but you can also go into full automated scheduling based on AI as well, based on the requirements that you put in to make the most efficient planning, for example. And for utilities, it's of course very important that we have an understanding of the spatial surroundings that we have within our domain as well. So really connecting the data from your maintenance planning, your schedule, and connecting them to the grid to have an understanding, like maybe we can combine it with certain work orders that are already in the region, that we can combine the work to make the most efficient planning for technicians. And then of course supporting our technicians out in the field during the mobile execution with the right tools to execute the work, increase the first time fix rate, but also making sure that they have all the information available to finish the work in a timely manner. And then of course the analytic and reporting to do your analysis to see where you can improve, but also to see how are you, for example, with your costs versus budget. But let's dive into more details on the asset performance side. Because if we talk about asset performance management, it's really an extension of the SAP Enterprise Asset Management. And like I just mentioned, we're focused in this area, let's say, on two pillars. On the one hand side, we have more the strategy, where you start with your risk assessment to see, okay, which assets are really at risk, where do we need to put a strategy in place, and for them, you can then execute, for example, an RCM or an FMEA analysis. And based on that, certain recommendations can become an outcome. And of course, you want those to be implemented directly within your maintenance plan and be executed by your technicians. And then we have the other side with the health monitoring part. We have different indicators that can be either sensors or your technicians out in the field doing certain inspections and capturing certain data. And then you really want to start monitoring to see how it develops over time and really start using that as predictive maintenance as well by using AI capabilities to do that. So what is really going to happen over time? So starting with the risk assessment, this is where we really focus on analyzing the potential failure and what the impact of the assets is. And you really want to develop the right maintenance and service strategy to mitigate the likelihood of it happening, but also to restore the function if acceptable. And for this, you can use standard reliability measures like the RCM, the FMEA, or the FMEA analysis to develop the best maintenance and service strategy for your critical assets out in the field. Then, of course, you want to derive and create maintenance recommendations to mitigate the likelihood of such a failure happening by using task clicks for reactive or proactive maintenance. And with the different recommendations that come out of the analysis, you want to make sure that you have the right measure in place and that they are reviewed, approved, and then released also for implementation. And of course, putting the developed recommendations into actions with the right implementation, making sure that you go from reactive or time or use-based maintenance really more to a service to condition-based maintenance, and in the end going to predictive and prescriptive maintenance as well. And in the end, you want to analyze the recommendations that you have put into place to see if there's any potential misalignment between the recommendation and the implemented measure, and therefore have that continuous loop and cycle of updating your strategy and the implementation. Then on the other side, of course, we have the monitoring of the asset based on rules. So we have your technicians that go out, they do certain inspections, they capture, for example, maybe the temperature, and from the sensor, you have like vibration information coming in. And when you set it up with embedded IoT, you can receive time series data, but also maybe events for health monitoring and demand generation. And for that, you set up different side of what we call indicators for your assets, and you configure thresholds and value range. That, for example, when the temperature exceeds above 100 degrees, or if within 2 weeks a certain vibration happens for 3 times, then we want to have action X being triggered. For example, a notification needs to be triggered a certain or a different kind of action needs to be triggered. And that, of course, then goes back into your enterprise asset management system. And in the end, it can be planned, scheduled, and executed by your technician. And then, of course, what we've also been talking about today is really going into the predictive maintenance, so that you can really start detecting anomalies based on the historical data that you have, but also using that combined with out-of-the-box AI algorithms that we already provide. And one of the analysis that we see a lot being used is, for example, the value curve and then analytics by the Weibull analysis, which is one of the techniques, but of course also the capability to put in your own algorithms as well. And coming back also on the topic of the monitoring of your assets and the embedded IoT, we deliver that via the leading platform of Cumulocity, a leader in industry IT platforms. And for this, we already enable data streams based on real-time data management. So this will enable indeed the asset health monitoring, but it's with a plug-and-play connectivity. So it really is about supporting the device connectivity, device management, the data visualization, and also the data streaming and analytics as well. And within the embedded IoT, we actually see four main capabilities. The first one is the device connectivity and management. So really to simplify the device connectivity with a plug-and-play scenario where you can directly connect the devices and manage them. And with embedded IoT, we have then the ecosystem of certified partners and devices, meaning that you can quickly procure sensors and quickly implement them as well. That support standard IoT protocols, like, for example, IoT REST. But it's really to bring the shop floor data, the SCADA data, and helping you to enable that based on asset health monitoring. The second part is the second pillar is with regards to the digital twin manager, which is very important that you can bring also the context of the IoT data to the asset performance management side, meaning that you can actually map devices, data points, and text to what is relevant for you within the asset management domain. The third pillar is focusing on the IoT cockpit. And really think of that as your dashboard. You can create your own dashboard and reports with pre-built widgets, looking at all the different alerts and map your equipment and certain signals that you want out of these stacks and sensors, and have them all in the same place to have a unified view of really how things are going on. And then as the final pillar, it's around the streaming analytics. And here the idea is that you can use a template-based smart rules to quickly set up monitoring of, for example, signal loss, connectivity loss, the monitoring of the asset health conditions, but also creating thresholds, workflows to really drive back commands back to the device, enabling reliability engineers to directly do this without the need to go into an IoT or an OT specialist. So I think all nice to see that, maybe what we can do, but I would like to share a few customer examples of who have been using this application actually, and what is the values that they realize. Two examples actually on the visual inspection. There are videos behind them, so also in the presentation that will be shared afterwards, please have a look at the videos as well, because you will get a lot of more details. But the example on the left side is from the Swiss Federal Railway, so the SBB, and they actually use cameras to visually inspect critical components and AI to gauge wear and tear. So this really helps the railway company to minimize the unplanned maintenance outages for passengers, so they can still get where they want to go on time, but also in a safely manner. And as a railway company, of course, you want to make sure that you're an asset-intensive industry, that you can leverage visual inspection, but also other forms of AI to scale, which will then lead to a higher reliability, optimized operations, and lower costs. Another example that I would like to share with you is from Equinor. And Equinor actually provides energy to more than 150 million people, and it operates in the world's largest integrated offshore pipeline system. And from a Euro point of view, where I'm coming from, they are actually the #1 gas line supplier in Europe and the third largest net seller of crude oil in the world. So for decades, they used manual processes that had dominated decision making. Data collection often ended up in Excel spreadsheets, followed by long time evaluations, graphing, and decision making. So as the company expanded, Equinor began to embrace a data-driven approach, utilizing automated dashboards to continuously monitor the data streams. And their reliance on experts to interpret the operational data and take then manually corrective actions remained a bottleneck for them. So to address this challenge, they envisioned a paradigm shift, the adoption of condition-based maintenance. And for that, they used SAP as a performance management that we just talked about. And this transformation has enabled them to become a more autonomous, but also machine-led and data-driven approach to asset management, involving extracting data, defining rules, and predetermined actions, automating much of the decision-making process, actually. So really condition-based maintenance empowered the operators to make informed decisions based on real-time equipment conditions, but also mitigating disruptions and maximizing the asset reliability. And the other example that I would like to share with you is from Aker BP. And they are an explorer and a producer of oil and gas in Norway. And in production terms, they're actually one of the largest independent listed oil companies that we have in Europe. And every piece of equipment plays a vital role in keeping the operations running, but also running safely and smoothly. And even the most minor failure could mean significant downtime or production losses, but also in the worst case, the risk of a human life. And the costs associated with maintaining such a setup, as you can all imagine, are huge. So mobilizing a maintenance team requires helicopters for them, highly specialist technicians, and coordination across multiple layers of safety and security protocols. And therefore, Aker BP have recognized the importance of digitization in addressing these challenges. They say a future scenario where equipment can communicate, even can tell the operators exactly what is needed, long before any issue arises. So a time when a crew only needs to be sent out in the field when it's truly necessary. The central vision that they have was to automate the entire maintenance process, from the collection of sensor data to the execution of maintenance activities. The goal was to use sensor data and apply algorithms to trigger maintenance actions automatically, reducing the need of manual intervention. And their project really represents a transformative approach to asset management using predictive analytics, AI, and seamless integration to improve efficiency, reliability, and safety across a complex operation. So they just complemented this project, and actually you're now expanding this project in the broader scope within the organization, supported by one of our partners, Lighthouse in this area. And with that, we share with you our vision on how utilities can harness digital tools to not just manage assets, but really to drive for smarter, more sustainable decisions, and helping utilities deliver reliable, cost-effective services to their communities. And of course, we explored a couple of real-world examples of how our customers are using applications to really leverage the digital innovation to improve efficiency, reliability, and sustainability. So I'm not sure, Yusuf, if you have any questions for the chat or if we have time to go into those.
Just checking the Q&A box. I don't see any specific questions at this point, but thanks, Suzanne. Amazing to see the SAP suite and its capabilities within the energy sector, and especially asset management, monitoring assets and asset health, as well as its incorporation of AI. Thank you so much. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that will reach out to you post the school.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about it, Yusuf. Have a great session.
Amazing. Thanks. Next up, we have Marco, who is a Divisional Sales Director for Smart Infrastructure at Siemens. His focus is on energy efficiency and smart buildings. Marco is also an expert in substation automation, power quality, and automation drive initiatives in microgrids and future grids as well, including e-mobility for the sub-Saharan Africa. So it's a pleasure to have you, Marco. And I'll hand over to you now. Thanks.
Thank you, Yusuf. Just let me know when you see my screen.
Good from my side. Oh, it's just.
Are we there?
Yeah, all good.
Good. Yeah, thanks for having me today on the presentation. I will go now a little bit towards what we as Siemens see in the digital tools and smarter asset management, what we see here on the African market. And I was in the last few months a lot around in South Africa, firstly towards our main topic, which is as everything renewables, big renewable power plants feed into the grid, but as well with the small municipalities, the small areas, on the one side, microgrids, what we will see later, but on the other side as well, how to help them with the aging infrastructure and everything, how to go forward, how to automate and how to help them, because with the aging infrastructure, they are coming in issues with the actual power delivery, but as well with all their with all their tasks they have towards ESCOM. So they are running into problems that they pay too many fines and then don't have money for asset management. So in a little bit of a vicious circle there, which we try to move into. So our digital solutions, what we are going towards, the standard scalability. So I will go a little bit later. It's based of different topics on the IoT space and energy and software as a service, where we try now to help the customers, especially with a small wallet and not that much of investment, to support them to get the intelligence into their grids. Now, for the energy costs, for our side mainly as well, energy costs and energy availability, optimize the operation costs. Yeah. A lot of the small municipalities, they have one or two people. They don't have a huge team, but have to cover huge areas here in South Africa. And increase the uptime and resilience and extend the lifetime of assets. Some of them you can extend, some of them are not really available. There's no extension anymore. There's then the replacements and run new technologies, newer hardwares. Improve the availability, reliability. What we have a lot of outages, and we're not only going high voltage, medium voltage as well. We go into the low voltage with the prosumers, with microgrids, with renewables, to look as well onto the side of the low voltage. The stability of the distribution grid, we heard it now a lot. It's not yet a big topic in South Africa. It's coming more and more. E-cars, EV charging comes, which is a new challenge for a lot of the municipalities, together with solar infeeds, which we try to support with the software which is available and the intelligence in the background. And I think in the report, if you read through the report, and I read yesterday a little bit through, one of the first IT threats you will see Stuxnet, which hit our PLCs as Siemens. So since 2001, we are very, very aware of cybersecurity, not 2001, 2007, I think, cybersecurity threats. So everything cybersecurity, we are working as included in our software packages, but even OT asset security, which is a package which we are trying to support not only our big utilities, but as well small municipalities towards being secure, as everything will be online, everything goes via software as a service, or is stored in the cloud or in data centers, to help them to be secure. So what do we have as a suite? We actually have a lot of the topics. We have it modular, so we can size it as well here for the African market and for South Africa especially. They have different modules and different target groups. So you see the first one, load management, is what we have in the countries, and that comes a lot over as well from Europe, where we have the intelligence to integrate the e-car charging infrastructure into the existing distribution grid. for the DSOs, so the distribution or infrastructure, so we can give that as well to private people, but as well municipalities and DSOs. Very important topics then, the next two ones, network fault management, which is especially here with the overhead lines, with the old overhead lines, which we have in a lot of the municipalities, and in between that we have that monitoring there and the fault management to have easy fault finding. We have very long overhead lines, which it can take quite long to find the fault. Improved asset management, in where we help existing older with equipping them with the right sensors and give it into the cloud, and then, like the colleagues before from SAP and as well what EY describes in their report, to extend the life cycle, but as well if there are new installations to have the overview what happened there. Sustainable energy management, it's more on the infrastructure side. That's going towards coming as well over from the European market, sustainability, green power, but as well then energy management. So we are using it down here as a kind of helping municipalities not to install and have the huge costs of installing a control center, but we give them the view onto the network and the energy management possibility. Distribution grid monitoring as well for DSOs. This is opposite of the overhead lines. This is where we look onto the cables and the distributions, mainly in cities where you don't use overhead line, where you go on the cables, which is a little bit of a different monitoring. OT companion, this is then where we help all of them to look about the cybersecurity and the security of their system, as well actively and not in real time, but in the monitoring in the right time and give them feedback. And the last but not least, power resource management. This is where, and you will see later the example where we are looking towards, we bring control, microgrids, renewable integrations onto it. So monitoring a whole microgrid in the remote areas, monitoring renewable feeds into the different grids. So well, that one is now available, or we offer as a service and to support Unix and areas and DSOs on that topic. On top, there we have API to customer clouds, third-party supporters. So we have the interfaces there where we exchange data as well, and our user experience. So this is everything what is on the apps, and where we put in the background the intelligence for further data. We have a lot of data which we can collect there. With the data as well, we have the algorithms and the intelligence in the background to learn, like we heard before, for the asset management, fault management, that we have active learning, machine learning, or how we call it, artificial intelligence now, to learn and support everybody on the next steps. So how we master it? So EV charging networks, localize and manage the network faults. We try to increase the asset uptime, and the most important thing, ensure cybersecurity. So we have the digital caretaker with the asset management, which looks all over the different assets. So from transformer, medium voltage switch gears, if there are overhead lines, we can monitor that. We have the different functionality. We equip data resources into existing switch gears or into new switch gears to help the municipality. And with the learning, we have early warning indications. So we heard that as well before. Heating, if you have suddenly strange measurements in the electricity network, in the switch gear, in the feeder there, we can give the alarms and do predictive actions, not and preventative, especially preventative maintenance. Continuous monitoring, so you're always up, or the municipalities are always up to date there. What falls together with the power monitoring with a lot of the renewables is that we improve optimizing costs. we had a cost topic as well, optimizing the cost of in-feed. We are talking a lot to the municipalities at the moment as well about wheeling, energy in-feed, and the energy market. So we have the renewable in-feeds, what we do main to get the interface now into the energy market, to open the energy market. We are working a lot there together with the power pools, with the municipalities to see what we can do, how we do the reporting, NERSA, ESCOM. So we are involved in a lot of these topics, and we bring that as well into the energy management and help them with the intelligence there in the background. As I said, cybersecurity. So we have real-time scans and end-of-life notifications. So that's data which we get feed into our system from our headquarters, from our developments, from everybody, where we get feedback, and it will be fed directly to the customer, not waiting until the threat comes up, but give them the information in advance, far in advance, so that all the threats can be on, all the backdoors can be closed. We are having it, and it works for all components. There we are as well, as everything is open now. It's not only Siemens. We look as well to get most of the data of the third parties which are included there. Yeah, streamlined to the cyber regulatory standards. Yeah, for costs of patching, downtimes, and so on. So we are compliant to all the different cybersecurity standards and push these ones as well into the municipalities and towards our customers. Now, fault prevention, as I said, a lot of long overhead lines which we have available here in the country. So to find a fault takes a while. So with the equipment of fault indicators, the communication, GPRS-based, fiber optic-based, towards a central system, now we can help the municipalities, and that's very much of cost saving and increasing reliabilities there. I think one of the most important topics what we have here to help them is to find the fault much faster. So instead of driving up and down the 25 kilometers of the overhead line, at least it depends on the amount of investments of the hardware, you can put it down to a 1 kilometer radius where the fault on your overhead line saves you quite a lot of time instead of driving 20 kilometers. Yeah. To help out as well, as I said, it can be software as a service as well, which then takes a lot of the costs of the back of the municipalities of installing a system. If the good old control systems, control centers, need a lot of hardware, computing, which we can take off the back of the customers and help them with an easier investment to run it for them, train the people to understand all of it. We train them on the systems, we train them on their hardware and enable them, and then give them the possibility for the full monitoring of the network. The same if we go towards the cities, where we have underground cable and distribution. We do there similar, and we go into the low voltage side as well. So as soon as you have transformer in the low voltage side feeding into industries or into houses, this is where we do the full utilization of the power. These are some of the packages, and as a last one for today, I can talk quite a lot more, but I want to keep it short. One of the microgrids which was done here in South Africa, and our colleagues from the GIZ were involved there, and a lot of people know it already because it's running now since around about it was just before COVID, in a small little town up at Blinkwood in the Eastern Cape. Actually a small installation, but a very nice test case, where you see what can be possible with installing in the remote areas. Instead of putting an overhead line over 25 kilometers, which was a planned for 2035, that they will have power there the first time. that they increased the speed of it by 15 years, and in 2019 they had then suddenly power in that little area. The installation was quite simple. So it was PV, diesel, and the storage at the beginning. Wind generation is now available. It came after COVID. The wind generation came as well, controlled in a microgrid environment with the weather data, and goes towards a power management, so towards feeding into the little grid. 75 houses, so as I said, not too big, with around about a peak of 75 kilowatts. So that all was installed, with the monitoring, with the energy mix, so that they have a full power supply 24/7. We had load shedding possibilities there, so the grid, the little overhead line grid, was made intelligent already towards the different houses, so that in case of low running battery, no at that time when there was no wind, no solar in feed, that the people still had power to a certain amount. So the load shedding was very easy in a level of 5 amp, 2 amp, 1 amp, settling which pieces are switched off first. And that is a living lab. Like you see there, it's connected to university, it's connected to the asset management. At that time, 2019, this asset management, the renewables, were not there yet in that amount. So for that, we are looking towards then what we say about power resource management. So this is where on top you put on that microgrid then the information, everything is there. So our little boxes speak MQTT to move it up into the cloud. And with that, we can get direct access as software as a service to have the whole monitoring information on our cloud systems, and help with the control, with the monitoring, and with that as well, as we see that the maintenance, support, asset management, driving 30 kilometers through a national park to reach always takes some time. With that one, it can be increased, and we are in a lot of talks all over the country with the different municipalities, but as well here with microgrids, where to go the next steps to make it more intelligent, and to help much more to improve maintenance and support them. That was the quick side from me, I think. If there are any questions. No, I don't see any.
No, nothing at this point, Marco, but thanks so much. I think the part where you spoke around municipalities resonates quite well in the South African market. I'm also doing some work there. A lot of the municipalities are stretched for resources, and their systems don't really speak to one another. And and having this software as a service, to reduce cost in the burden municipalities is really a good business case. I mean, I think for many municipalities, having large debts and owing, Eskom and a whole lot of other, service providers. So I think these are sort of good spaces that you are playing in. So yeah, I'll definitely be one of the people that will reach out to you in future.
Always welcome. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, and then I'll just hand over to Sophie from the Energy Partnership for any closing remarks on her end.
Thank you, Yusuf, and hello from my side. Coming to an end to the webinar, I would like, in the name of the Energy Partnership, to thank you, Yusuf, and the whole team at EY, as well as the response group for their work on the substantial report. Further thanks go out to Shannon, Renette, and the team for their support in implementing these 2 webinars. And finally, thank you to our research and industry speakers, and thanks to all of you here with us today for engaging on this dynamic topic. Over the 2 webinars, our speakers have explored opportunities that digitalization offers in the energy sector and shown actionable steps to realize them. Some of the topics we covered in detail include utilizing advanced metering infrastructure to optimize energy grids, improve market flexibility and operational efficiency, and there was more of the focus today, the impact AI and smarter data utilization can have on asset management, but also on overall energy security. You can go back and read up on these topics in more detail in the full report, which you can find on our website. I believe the link was shared earlier today in the chat. If you're looking for a more bite-sized information, there's also an executive summary available, and it will soon be joined by policy briefs matching the 6 topics of the report. Now, this is only the start of the topic of digitalization for us at the Energy Partnership. We're currently planning a workshop to bring together relevant South African startups who we find to be critical enablers of the digital transformation in order for them to exchange, discuss, and explore potential pathways in digital energy themes. Please feel free to reach out to us and approach us regarding questions through the report. You can find our contact details on the website, in the report itself, but you can also find us on LinkedIn. Again, thank you guys for being here with us today. And with that, I hand over to Shannon.
Thank you very much, Sophie. From Creamer Media Webinars, we'd like to say thank you to everyone who joined us today for this final session in the 2-part series on the South African-German Energy Partnerships report on opportunities for digitalization in the South African energy sector. Thank you to all the panelists for their insights and the presentations, and thank you to all of you who engaged through the Q&A and the chat. Your participation makes these conversations both dynamic and meaningful. As a reminder, today's session has been recorded and is also available on YouTube, so you'll be able to revisit the discussion or share it with your colleagues and peers. You can also receive a copy of the slide deck should you request it. You can email us at shannon@creamermedia.co.za to request a copy. On behalf of our team and panelists, thank you again for spending your time with us. If you have any further questions or would like to continue the conversation, feel free to reach out to us. And that email address again is shannon@creamermedia.co.za. And with that, I'd like to bid you all farewell. Stay safe, stay well, and goodbye for now.